again, welcome to the Livescope channel where we're going to do another Power review. This is episode 7, Power Ghost Book 2. Let's get into it. Well, when I was watching episode 7, it started off with a bang, and it made me want to rename this episode They Ain't Ready, because when I saw it, that's immediately what I thought, so I think it is appropriate. Lorenzo and Drew, now they run down on Keno, who is playing Naked Twister with some woman, and when they entered the room, Drew wastes no time popping Keno. Again, this just shows his level of growth as far as him putting in work with no hesitation. He has really come a long way so far. Now, this scene quickly is stopped and enters Monet and another woman, who just so happens to be the wife of their snitch uncle, Uncle Frank, that was killed by Cain last season. So the wife, Evelyn, talks about how her husband came to visit Monet, but never made it. Monet plays it off by acting like she doesn't know what happened to him and that Uncle Frank knew what he signed up for. Then she passes the wife a wad of money, and the wife takes it and leaves. But before she goes, she tells Monet to tell Lorenzo to be careful out there. And although I'm gonna assume, because they're calling him Uncle Frank, that they are actually related, I think Evelyn feels that maybe the Tejada family did something to her husband. So her leaving those words, tell Lorenzo to be careful out there, yeah, it could be genuine, but then again, it may not be revealed till a later episode if those words really mean something else. Now, we're going to switch over to Tariq meeting Davis and Saxe at a church to discuss some video footage of Cain killing the cop, which the prosecutors think is Tariq. Davis questions Tariq a little bit about who is trying to frame him, and Tariq gives Davis an alibi named Paula. And Paula, who happens to be one of Davis's bedmates and former colleague, the alibi may be shaky, but it's credible as far as right now. So Tariq gives that up, but still, he won't tell who actually killed the cop. And Saxe flies off the handle by saying, "You're lying, you know who did it, and you won't say." Now, on a side note, Davis has a brother who is in jail, played by Redman, who he is trying to get out. So Davis definitely knows how street politics work, and he tells Saxe maybe he can't say who did it, because if he does, he's in danger. Of course, Saxe doesn't understand this logic or this method of thinking, especially since he comes from a well-to-do family, so he won't get it. All he sees is that Tariq is not giving up the bad guy, even though he thinks that Tariq is a bad guy. So moving on to Tariq looking through the photo book that Brady got for him, and they're at the dorm room. He sees a picture of Brady's father and the politician that Councilman Tate is trying to knock out of the game in blackface. This may shake things up a little bit because Tariq tells Tate this information, and he asks that he leaves Brady's family out of it because Brady doesn't want his dad to be implemented in anything that could ruin him. Now, of course, we all know that Tate doesn't care about anybody but himself, so he says, "Look, I need you to give me that picture. I'm the one that's helping you to try to get your sister back and everything, so I need that information. I don't care about your friend." So while this is going on, Davis goes to talk to Paula, and it doesn't go well. And while they are having their conversation, Tariq goes back to class from Tate's office, and he sits on the opposite side of the room from Lauren. And when he comes in, now we see Carrie Milgram talking to Tate, and she says, like, how could they let him out and everything. And then their discussion. Now, Carrie had started with Tariq as far as opening up the discussion, and then Lauren kind of chimes in. You can tell that Lauren still a little pissed, and she thinks she has been taken advantage of by Professor Milgram. Tariq also finds out that Lauren's dorm room was searched and they found drugs. So naturally this makes him suspicious, and he rushes over to Davis's office and he talks to Davis and Saxe. And this is when Saxe, he sees a picture of Lauren that Tariq shows them, and he tells Tariq to stay away from her, but he doesn't tell him why. After Tariq leaves, then Saxe gives Davis the information that Lauren was the same girl who was in the DA's office. Now, skipping around some, Dante sees Zeke at the park, and he finally gets to tell Zeke he is his father. Zeke, being an emotional mess most of the time, doesn't believe it, and Dante shows him a tattoo that's on his arm that tells Zeke the story of how he got his name. Then Dante tells Zeke to ask his mom about it, and the scene goes to Professor Milgram listening in on a clubhouse meeting with the students talking about how she is a big old whore. Now, I really don't care for Carrie Milgram's character. I feel like she puts on a facade that's just a little more phony than the rest of the cast to me. Now, granted, everybody has to portray a certain representative, so to speak, but Carrie, she literally seems like she just goes overboard because she acts like she is so pure and so goody-goody, but then yet she is knocking down a lot of men in her bedroom. Now, granted, she has a sex addiction problem, but still, I just don't like how the character is portrayed a little bit. But I digress. So now she is supposed to speak at Professor Reynolds' memorial dinner. They're having one for him, and this is where the alum will be. And during the conversation that she was eavesdropping on, Tate comes into her office. Then another alumni, someone who was over Professor Milgram, and Tate comes in to talk about her speaking at the dinner. Now, Tate leaves the office, but of course, he has the door cracked so he can listen in. And this alumni is trying to tell Professor Milgram, maybe it's not a good idea that you should speak. Now, I think it's because everything is coming out about Professor Milgram having a relationship with Professor Reynolds. So Tate comes in, and he manages to get the alumni to keep Professor Milgram on as the speaker, and in exchange, he asks Professor Milgram to get him a ticket or an invite into this memorial dinner for Professor Reynolds. And the reason why is because the rich alum is going to be there, and of course, Tate wants to confront Brady's father. So getting back to Monet, she meets up with Zeke, and apparently Zeke didn't make a meeting with her and a recruiter, so she's a little mad. So Zeke tells Monet that he ran into some guy who is claiming to be his dad, and he has to go back home to talk to his mother about it. Now, instead of Monet just coming clean and giving him the information right then, she tells Zeke to have a seat, and then she tells Zeke that his father is in prison for life. Now, Zeke is under the impression that his dad is dead. So when all of the information comes out and they find out that Monet lied to this extent, it is really gonna blow back on her very, very hard. So now Monet is going to meet with Dante. Now, Dante earlier had sent Monet a text message while she was in the kitchen with Diana, and Diana just so happens to see the message on Monet's phone. and it was just, we need to talk, and then it had like D, who it was from. So she's sitting there now, she's wondering, and of course I said on the last video, Diana is going to put the pieces together. What she chooses to do with that information is going to be totally up to her, and then we will have to wait and see how that plays out. So now, when Dante and Monet are face to face, Dante lets it be known that he wanted to be in Zeke's life. He didn't know that Zeke even existed. He went to jail, and then they gave him a choice to go into the military, so he took that opportunity. But he said he wouldn't have missed any basketball games. He wouldn't have missed any parts of his life. So he feels very robbed. You can tell by the way he was speaking to Monet. And Monet tries to tell him, well, she was 16 as well, and you don't think people were making decisions for me at the same time? So that dynamic of feeling like you have lost something in your life and you have a chance to make it right and you don't, that could stir up a lot of anger in a person, and we don't know how that person is going to react. And then again, aren't they, or wouldn't they be well within their right to be angry, especially if they didn't know about their child? So isn't Dante well within his rights to basically act a fool? Also, I just want to add, this episode put it in my head that maybe Lorenzo and Dante are not related, because after Monet and Dante have their meeting, now it goes over to Kane, Dante, and Lorenzo and Drew coming up to meet Dante. So Lorenzo has no clue who Dante is, but we all know that Dante knows exactly who Lorenzo is. And Dante basically tells Lorenzo, alright, yeah, I'll give you all of my product to move. And if you need someone or some help to take out the crew that you're targeting, I got that covered too with some soldiers, but it's gonna be for a fee. So Lorenzo was like, alright, set that up. And they do. This knocks Kane out of his position, because he had a little bit of leverage over his father as well as the family, but this just knocks him from that overseer that he likes to be. So now we get back to the memorial dinner, and Carrie is trying to put it into Lauren's head that Tariq is dangerous and to stay away from him. But is she doing this because she is really concerned for Lauren, or is she doing this because she wants to keep Lauren close and she doesn't want everything to come back her way again? When she starts to speak about Professor Reynolds, the audience, they begin to whisper about her to the point where she couldn't even finish her speech. Now, first thing I thought was maybe she was freaking out, but when she left and went to her office and Tate followed her shortly after, he had confirmed that, yeah, they were talking about you. Because she is sitting there, she's crying, she's like, oh, my career is over, woe is me. And he's telling her, if you're anything like me, a survivor, you'll find a way. So he gives her a kind word, but at what cost with Tate? Now let's get to the part that I really want to talk about. And that's when Lauren goes to Tariq's dorm room to tell him everything. And Diana rolls up. So Tariq dismisses Lauren, and he tells her his lawyer said he needs to stay away from her. It was only a matter of time before Diana and Tariq finally become a thing. I'm not going to say a couple yet, because Tariq doesn't want Monet to know. And we all know that Diana is cool with that. She doesn't want Monet to know either. However, Diana does ask Tariq, does he know anybody named D, because of that situation that happened earlier in the kitchen with the message popping up on Monet's phone. So Tariq says, nah, he doesn't know anybody by the name of D. And then they go ahead and they do what they do. As this is going on, Kane and Drew, they have a fight at the house. It comes out to Lorenzo that Drew's boyfriend might be a snitch. Drew plots on sending Everett to the upper room in the sky, and Kane confronts Davis in a ski mask with a gun to ensure Tariq takes the hit for Ramirez's murder. Davis reminds Kane that they wouldn't be in this mess if he hadn't planted the badge on Tariq. See, when you try to get somebody else hemmed up, just remember the pendulum swings both ways, and it can always come back on you. And in Kane's case, it seems like it comes back on him a lot. Towards the end of the episode, Tamika, Saxe, and the DA come to Tariq's room to offer him a deal where he has to donate 5 years of his life in jail if he gives Kane up. Even though Tariq asked Tamika for help earlier in the episode, he thought about it and he said, hell no, I'm not doing 5 years. No, he didn't really say that, but I bet that's exactly what he was thinking. Saxe believes he is innocent, but it doesn't matter to him if Tariq goes down or not, because he mentioned to Tamika that maybe it's time he gets caught up. Anyway, Tamika, who pretty much just went on a crusade after talking with Tariq earlier, she tries to get everybody together, and she does, and she gets this plea deal proposed for him. And when Tariq doesn't accept it, Tamika basically tells him to never call her again. So if he has any kind of questions about any type of legal situation beyond working with Davis, he doesn't have her as a wealth of information to know how to go about handling situations and possibly getting out of it. So once that scene was over, Davis goes to lightly scold Saxe at a bar about going behind his back to set up a plea deal. And this is when Davis finds out that Carrie Milgram is on record as being Lauren's counsel. This just goes to show that an argument can be made, or even a reasonable doubt can be presented based off of that information, and it's going to make Carrie Milgram, in my opinion, look even more guilty, because in the first episode, one of Carrie's flings, Whitman, was going in that direction. So while Davis goes over to Carrie's house and he lets her know about her tramp activities, coming back to bite her on the butt, Kane has the nerve to tell Tariq that there is no more product coming in and he has to find another way to get his money. Now, after causing a problem, he practically is demanding that Tariq solves it. And this is just another reason as to why Kane can never be in the number 1 position, not even at this point the number 2 position, because as Drew told him, he is a better guard dog than a boss. So that just wraps episode 7 of Power Book 2 Ghost. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you even like me doing these reviews. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, bye.